All right. Let's see. Yeah, I think we're recording. So welcome all to the first office hours, RoamStack office hours. I've never attended a official Roam office hour, so I don't know what the difference is actually. But I wanted to get to know you all a little bit better. Want to give people, the members, the opportunity to directly influence what Francis and I are working on. Francis would have loved to be here, but it's his wife's birthday, so he's celebrating that. Um, so why this office hours? Well, for you, opportunity to get to know fellow RoamStackers. Uh, I started this only for members initially. I might open up the next or the session after that also for subscribers. Uh, but obviously we do this for the members first and foremost, but by being a member, you also support some of the community efforts that we do. So we try to be, if you read the sales page, the landing page when you signed up, it's our goal to create a knowledge base, everything Roam related. So all the information, all the tips and tricks and how to work with Roam, it's so scattered over the web. There are some courses, they tend to be expensive, and they're mostly video based. So both Francis and I were instructional designers, and we don't believe in video first education, so to say. So we want to focus on resources, but for us to understand what your needs are, you need to express them. So the community is one way. You can email us, and office hours like these are very valuable. So Andy has been also in Building a Second Brain, and I think Rhonda as well, right? So this last month, let's see, so I think September, Building a Second Brain was running, and I was one of the mentors, and I really noticed that these sessions, just showing stuff to people, demoing, but all focused on your needs is the most useful resource. So this is a platform also to ask questions apart from the community and email. And it's also to feed the knowledge base. So I want to show you what we have been working on. Let's see. So can you still see my screen?
Yes.
See the browser?
Yeah.
Or do you still see Roam?
I see.
No, browser.
Okay, perfect. So our current knowledge base is this. I see I need to log in again. This is our current knowledge base. It's there is no search function, but we wanted to focus on content first. So it's just Francis and I, and we're trying to discover what people are struggling with. So as we discover stuff, we write about it. So this is a first attempt. And now I need to log in again. Right. So this will be the new knowledge base. So this will go live today or tomorrow. It's way better, also easier for us to populate, and it has a search function. So for example, you can search for plugin, and here you have the instructions. So this is what we want to work on, provide you with an easy way to solve problems. So if you run into anything that you can figure out on your own, so instead of having to Google, because I mean, there are not that many Roam articles yet to be found via Google, so you have to search on Twitter or official forums, and we want to try to solve that. So that is one of the reasons. I hope it makes sense. So this office hours, the floor is yours, I would say. So we can make it as long as short as we want. I have the time. So I really would like to hear from you. What is maybe just one thing that you would like to dive into, or that you've been thinking about? And you think, I have absolutely no idea how to solve this with Roam, although I would like to. So going back oh, to the browser. So while you're thinking, I want to show you already some questions that I got and also already answered. So, so these are example questions. Easiest way to get text out of Roam and into Word. I hear this often. How to make tasks spend multiple days. Is there a way to extract tasks and link them to an external app with push notifications? You can think of anything. And here it was, for example, Andrew had a very specific question about the GitHub workflow. So it's a automated workflow. And this is the power of Twitter. So we have a pretty big Twitter following already. So you can use that as well. So we try to tweet out useful stuff on our Twitter accounts so that people follow us. But in return, we also get access to the Roam community. So if there's a question, we have a platform to ask people for solutions. And in this particular case, within 10 minutes there was an answer with the fix. So you can see the power of community, and that's really something I want to focus on. So let's see. Let's go back. So what do you want to learn? Please put it in the chat. And I don't know if there's anything in the chat. Maybe there's nothing. And then we'll have a very short. There's nothing in the chat. Or speak up. Or speak up. The floor is yours.
Well, I won't be shy. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Fred,
This is
hi.
Fred. My background shows I'm from a rural part of the mountains of Virginia, the Blue Ridge. I live in a county that has one traffic light. So it's very rural, and I have 1 gig internet speed in the boondocks. Progressive life in the slow lane. And what I need to know, among other things, I'm working on a book, and actually in my contract with my little publisher, they have that we will work out the first draft in Roam.
Oh,
And
okay.
so my editor, who had never heard of Roam, is really sort of getting into it. But I'm getting to the point where it scares me a little bit that it's getting so complex with revisions and edits and comments that I don't want to end up in a morass. I don't know anything about versioning. I don't know if there are additional things planned for versioning in the future that would make what I'm doing any easier to not lose track of where I am and where I have been. Backing up as often as I can think of it. I'm a little scared.
Yeah. So for the backing up, there's I referred to it just now. There's the GitHub backup option. You have to be a little bit technical for it.
Yeah, that scared me off.
Okay. Okay.
It was actually fairly easy to do. I followed the instructions.
Well, that's a good idea.
and they were really easy to follow.
Okay.
So
all right. Thanks.
I think even if you're not technical, it should be fairly straightforward.
Cool.
So I will link. Let's see. So I cannot link to the new knowledge base yet, but I can link to. Let's see. So it was no, it was one of the lessons. Sorry. I will grab the link. So keeping your Roam data safe. Is this the one you followed, Andy? Let's see. So these are manual backups, automatic backups.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one. Yeah.
Like this one, right?
That's it. Yeah.
I will clean it up a little bit, I see. I will link to it in the chat. I will also make sure this ends up in a new knowledge base.
Great.
It's a really good question. As it for versioning, yeah. To be honest, so Francis and I we work with or in Rome for content creation and stuff like that, or coming to decisions. We use these attributes. So F for Francis and R for Ramses.
Mhm.
and then we do something like, added. It's very manual. So you get added. That's how we currently work. I've also seen people come up with CSS features, but I think that would probably be way too advanced. So it
Why
has to be,
attributes? Why attributes and not tags?
because that way you can use tags, but this way you can see just the block starts with the person saying it. It almost functions like chat. And then we use attributes, because then you can filter on the attributes, but you can also filter on the tags. But so we could do something like this, would be easy,
Mhm.
but this is just our standard because
Okay.
then it starts.
Yeah, I'm using tags with my editor's initials in mine, and that's our back and
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah, so attributes, tags, both would work, or links. And then but then for versioning, yeah, that is, I mean, it works. You have the versions, and you can. We've also written a little bit about it in one of the lessons. But honestly, I think multiplayer Rome is still going to come, because I think they're still testing out.
Yeah.
So for now, it's workarounds with things like attribute or tags. Yeah, I think that's how we use it currently. And there's also a way, and I've never used it. Let's see. There's also a way to show the, let's see, I don't know if it's here in the documentation, to show who edited the block as last, so you can see the little icon.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, and I can't make it work on mine.
Control
Yeah,
C,
yeah.
Control
So
C.
toggle others edit icons.
Control
So
C, Control
C.
S or X or some such.
Yeah, this one.
It used to be
Control
X, I think it is now
S. It's Control C, Control S. So let's see, CS. Yeah, here you can see. And when you hover over, I don't know, are you on Mac or on
Mac.
Windows? Oh yeah,
Mac.
so it's Control CS.
Doesn't work. I'm on Opera, and I don't know if it's an Opera issue.
So it's
It
not
worked
command.
initially.
It's yeah. For me, it works. And this is in Brave.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Then there's also CCS. Yeah, and then you only see other people's. Yeah, so CS. Try maybe another browser. Sorry, that's the best answer I can give now.
Yeah.
Let's see. I saw something. Ron, I do not have a specific. Yeah. Okay. So if there are no questions, I can obviously also demo something. So Fred, there was a very useful remarks, because now I know, okay, versioning, that's something I think I want to dive into. Editing icons, maybe, usefulness of editing icons. Backing up often. And for that I've linked in the chat. Um, so thank you. Any other questions
Are there other
or
authors,
remarks? Sorry,
that
yeah.
are trying to write books or edit them in Rome that you're aware of? I've heard of a few, I think. But they might have solved.
Personally, I'm not writing a book, but I am writing a course now. So I also have to think of content organization. So what stage are you in now with your writing process?
I've got, I'm calling them chapters. They're really like personal essays and observations. I'm a biologist, so a lot of it's natural history, sense of place, nature literacy. I've got about 75,000 words in 85
Wow.
chapters. And it's so easy to reorganize them in Rome that I would dread to think about trying to do this in something linear like Word, where every chapter is a file and you had to go through all that crap. So it's pretty fleshed out. I've got to fill in some gaps. I have to write some additional pieces now that the pandemic has changed everything I thought I was going to say to conclude. But I've set a target date for getting between covers of spring of 2022. So I'm not in a big rush.
Yeah. So you're already in the editing process now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting because I use Roam for research. I use Roam for outlining, writing, even large parts. But I've never done the editing part. But maybe that's because I write for the web mostly. But I've never done the editing part in.
Well, I had it in Dynalist. And when I discovered Rome, actually, I think my first conversation with Connor, he suggested that I import it, and I did. And I've been working on the book there ever since. That was October last year.
Okay. Andy, you shared a link.
Yeah, I was just trying to find the person's name. So Luca Delana, he's just about to publish a book, and part of that is that he's publishing his Rome database.
I've seen that.
Book, so
I've seen that. Yeah.
That might have some useful information, or maybe worth chatting to him to see if he can provide any tips, because I guess he must have done it in Rome as well, maybe with his editors.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it could even be an additional income stream, because I've seen the price of his book.
Yeah.
Way more for database access, and I was like, oh, interesting business model.
I'm
Yeah,
I mean, to see that though, because I think that's. I was talking to Francis the other day about this and the ideas of no longer needing to have a linear structure to read a book, because you can sort of open up new, different ways of looking at a book. And for me, one of the hardest things that I find, which I'm still kind of trying to figure out how to do well in Rome, is when I take notes on books, is how to pull out the themes more easily. So having kind of those things already available, that would be a really interesting way of reading a book, instead of just in the way the author intended necessarily.
Yeah. I do think it would, to be really useful, it would also need to influence the way of writing, I think, if you want to publish it in Rome, because the way I see Rome, that every block is a note. So if you have, for example, the Zettelkasten system based on index cards, I would see almost every block as an index card. So I can nest blocks underneath, so they're almost linked to that parent block, but I still use them as index cards. So for me, to be really useful, because I rely so much on blocks and not series of blocks necessarily, one idea needs to be contained in a block. So that's not always the case. And I think especially if you read articles on the web, like most paragraphs are maybe 2 or 3 sentences long. So they don't even contain one idea. And I mean, I'm also guilty of that. So yeah, it's also interesting now, for example, with books, I find myself, and maybe I can show a little bit of that if there's any interest in it. But for example, I create my own paragraphs using Readwise, and I've demonstrated it before. So I get blocks in Rome that are essentially sentences pulled together into one block. So I create my own note cards by even by highlighting stuff. And I think that that is also something very powerful. So even though the books aren't ready, and this is actually how Francis and I met, because Francis wrote an article or a paper about multi-level content, also to try and help writers come to or create content that's easier to understand. And but as readers, we can also achieve the same, I think, if we use tools like Readwise and take our own notes in Rome and keep it very atomic. So if one block contains one idea, it becomes way easier to jump from block to block, because you don't need to digest several ideas in one block, or you don't need several blocks to understand an idea. It would be perfect if you can summarize an idea in one block. So that's something I do. Also, how I write in Rome. So my blogs tend to be a little bit longer, whereas I mostly see people often use single sentences or very short blocks. I write more in a block, but I make sure that I also bold stuff so I can still have the gist of the block. So I do, for people familiar with building a second brain, so I progressively summarize my own notes. So I can just read the bullet parts and still have the gist of it. I don't know if that makes sense, that process.
I haven't quite figured it out myself yet, but I wonder whether there's a way of doing it where if you could be very granular in how you write your blocks, and then you can have blocks just filled with block references as you pull them together. So each individual idea is its own, as you say, that atomic block for one idea, maybe one or two sentences of the one idea. And then I don't know how that would work in a book, because there's a level of narrative that you kind of want and need in most sort of books. So it might make the book really dry if it was a pure thing like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether that's part of the problem, whether there's a natural split between what your Roam data would look like versus what the final book product might be, where you need a little bit more, I'll call it fluff, just wait, because you need a little bit more stuff around it. It's not really adding to the ideas as such.
Yeah, one very interesting idea that pops up in my mind is you can even narrow a block down to one sentence, because I think you can use several block references in one block. So what you could do, and I have no idea how this would work in practice, but you could use, for example, a block reference at the beginning, you have a little bit of fluff, and then you have another sentence. So you can start just with maybe the statements that you want to make, and just write them in one single sentence in a block. And you can reference that block later in another block where you add some fluff, or the fluff. It's like you connect the sentences that way. But when you change the sentence and you use it like in the final product, you call in the block reference, then you can just change the statement, and it will change also obviously the block reference. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to do a little bit in my own Roam, to kind of pull separate ideas together into a piece, and mixed results so far. Okay. I'm not quite sure. It'd be interesting to see if others start to do it and whether it seems to work, or whether it's just me creating blocks of individual ideas poorly at the moment, because they sometimes feel like they connect and sometimes they don't.
Yeah. I see some live in the chat. So let's see. Oh, I'm going to attempt to pronounce your name, but I'm so sorry if I do it wrong. Mridula? I'm so sorry if I pronounced it
You're
wrong.
almost there. It's Mridula.
Sorry, can you pronounce it?
Mridula.
Midula? Without
Mridula,
the
yeah.
R?
So the D is
Midula.
like a duh more.
Midula. Okay, Midula. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong.
No,
I
it's okay.
try my best. So you say it's very interesting. You mentioned non-linearity for books in Rome. There was a hangout yesterday with Norman from Rome FM, where one of the focuses was allowing for books in Rome and whether people would like the non-linearity or not. Might be worth checking out the recording when Norman releases it. That's a really good idea. I have also a chat with him scheduled soon. So yeah, I don't know what we'll be talking about, but yeah, very interesting. And then DAP, let's see. I'll read it out loud. So DAP says, over my lifetime, I've experienced most sticky learning success when I've had workbooks of exercises to progressively go through. I'm a senior, and I've also noticed over time that the exercise or workbook route seems to have died out. Yes, my goodness. I learn most successfully in a structured environment that is at the same time self-driven. So my ideal scenario based on these past successes is give me a well-written structured workbook full of exercises and the time to go through it front to back, and I win. I come out on the other end, independent and ready to rock, and even able to teach others. Yes, these notebooks don't exist. Wow. Okay, do you have 3 hours? I can talk about this so much. So one of the ideas that Francis and I have is with the knowledge base, we want to provide the building blocks. As a follow-up, we would like to help people navigate the knowledge base. So for people familiar with Salesforce, they have an education platform they call it Trailhead, and they are essentially individual lessons, like 10, 15-minute lessons you can do, and that teach you one specific thing, so one feature or whatever, one point of view. But then they tie them together in trails. So they tell you, start out with this resource and then go to that resource and then that resource. So they provide you the path. And then you have optional lessons you can go through. So very cool, and that's actually something that that Francis and I are well, something that we want to create. And then also, yeah, I've also been thinking about study guides a lot. So instead of summaries, for example, provide study guides. Could be for books, but could also be for learning content. So yeah, I'm very much in favor of workbook type exercises, especially to learn new things. So I think the resources are perfect if you already know what you want to learn. Sometimes you need to get an overview of like a map of the terrain of what's available. Because if you don't know if something is possible, I mean, I've seen so many times in the Roam community that people said, I didn't know I would need this feature. But now I see it and I cannot live without. So for example, for me, that's Roam 42. And now also with the Roam portal extension, I've been journaling in Roam quite a bit, and I never had a way. I mean, I was hoping for a way to visualize my emotions over time, and now it's possible through a search plugin. So it's so amazing. But if you don't know that, so that's one of the goals that we have with RoamStack. So Deb, thank you for the suggestion. It lights a fire under my ass to create something like that.
Oh, good. Thank you. Good. All right.
So any other struggles, or maybe you have seen something cool that you think, wow, people must see this. Is there anything that you would like to share?
Are there a lot of people using the Delta function successfully and knowing exactly what results they're going to get and managing that wisely, because I haven't gotten there yet.
I've been playing with it, and I've wrote an article a few days ago or so now that kind of showing my different use cases for it, which I'm mostly using just for kind of daily like intention setting type things, and for, I guess, for journaling related stuff. So if you're familiar with Tracy's like note to my next day self type stuff, I used the delta function to power that instead of the way she initially kind of described it.
Are you customizing that or just taking sort of the default?
For those, because that's literally all I'm doing is sending it to the next day. So if I write the note today, I'll send it to tomorrow. So for that, I literally just use the keyboard shortcut just to send it, well, the child block to tomorrow's thing. Then the one that I kind of use it most for, that I customize it, is I kind of use this system called the discipline, which is just a way of sort of using your available time each day. So you kind of pre-decide how you'll spend your available time. So I use Delta for setting that out for, it's like, because it's a 10-day period, I just set that out, and so generate that on the first day. And then again, that just sends it out X number of days ahead so that it will just appear on the right day, and I don't have to think about it once I've set it up. I don't have to go and refer to it anywhere else. I just look at that day's daily note page, and it's there. I use the spaced repetition thing a little bit, just for kind of, once I've got notes into Roam, if this thing, my workflow is kind of constantly changing, but like once I've kind of got article notes in or book notes in, I like to kind of re-review them later. So, I do a lot of that in Readwise more so now, but once I've decided I've finished with it in Readwise and I get it into Roam, then I kind of want to start to surface that in Roam. So in the progressive summarization mode, I kind of view like the first few layers is I'll do that in Readwise, and then the sort of the 1%, 0.5% type stuff. I'm not following the building a second brain process perfectly on that. I think I'm sort of deviating on purpose, but I want to be able to kind of resurface those book notes at some other point where I can kind of then do a further sort of summary pass after another week or two's passed once it's hit Roam. So those are ones where at the moment all I'm doing is like, I used to just set a next review date and put a specific date on it. But if I didn't do it on that date, then it would just, I'd have to do a query to kind of find everything that I've missed and change all the dates again. So instead now I'm just using the delta function to do the same thing and just pretty much picking an arbitrary number of days in the future. And then that gets on there. And then if I don't do it on that date, I only need to hit the delta button and send it to another day, because it doesn't really matter when I do it necessarily. There's no deadline for it.
Back around.
And it works okay for that. It's just a bit manual to have to fiddle around with the settings at the moment.
Yeah.
Have you, so I haven't really worked with the delta function yet because I've been using Roam Toolkit for spaced repetition, and not that extensively. I'm an Anki user for, I don't know, 10 plus years, maybe 15 years. Oh my goodness. But if you miss a day, so you didn't use the delta again to send it to the future, can you still see what you missed in the past? Does it still show up somehow?
Yeah, so you can literally search for the delta page. So if you just search for delta, there's a page for delta, the like Alt-J. Oh, excuse me. So you can just go onto that page and then you'll see everything in your linked references. So you can kind of go back and literally find everything there, which is If you use like the filter on that, then you can just kind of filter it down if you've tagged it or linked it in some other way with something. So
Yeah. I've linked to your article in the chat. I haven't seen it, but it looks very thorough, very thorough.
yeah,
So going to dive into that one.
yeah, I'd be interested to see if you find it helpful or useful.
Yeah, I mean, sending stuff into the future, that is really, yeah, for me, the challenge is always, okay, when do I want my next my future self to see this next? So in Anki, it's super easy. It does it for me. And if I miss a day, it's still in the queue, so it's still waiting for me. But it's a hassle if you work in Rome, so it should work in Rome. But that's, yeah.
Yeah, my assumption is they're going to add more to it. All that is in there right now is the basic raw building blocks, and now they just need to add more user interface around it to make it easy to do that, and to make it do that like at the end of the day. Since like they can generate you a new daily note every day automatically, it should be fairly easy to be able to go, oh, look at all the delta func blocks on yesterday's that you didn't actually click yourself, and then have an algorithm to push those forward in some way in a more automatic fashion. I imagine you could probably do that now just with some JavaScript if you knew what to script for. So maybe I should hit up RoamHacker or David Vargas or something, because JavaScript's not my forte.
Yeah, I mean, and that is also one of the, I would say, the advantages of RoamStack. So if you think, ooh, I would like to be able to do this, I talk to Chris, RoamHacker, almost daily. So if post whatever you're stuck with in the community, because that way we can make the solutions better, the tools better, because it's really, I think David and Chris, RoamHacker, they really listen to the needs of the community. And in my case, for example, I wanted to be able to use in Rome 42, they have this calendar thing you can pull up, and then you can jump to another daily notes. But I wanted to open it in the sidebar. I told Chris, and 4 hours later it was in the plugin. So I was like, what? So it really works. It really helps to engage with those people. And if you don't know how to describe exactly what you want, or you find it difficult, please do it in a community, and I'm more than happy to pick it up with other people for you.
You just taught me something I didn't think I could do that, but I just realized, shift clicking. Perfect. Well, this was worthwhile straight off now.
Yes. So, I mean, it's this community is so cool, but it's always, the trick is always to find the people, the right people. And it's not necessarily the right people that maintain something, but also knowing people who could create something. So for example, RoamHacker, Cato Minor, David Vargas, those are all, I mean, in the best sense of the word, nerds who love to build, but they need inspiration to build something. So if we can provide them something, so that's why I always encourage people to share. I've written down the delta function for the knowledge base. So far I've versioning, usefulness of editing icons, backing up often. We already have an article, but I want to bring it to the knowledge base. Depth suggestion on a workbook to onboard to Roam, and the delta function. And I don't know if there are more suggestions that people should check out, or questions. I'm going to take another sip of water. I'll wait.
Well, I will ask you a little thing, since you mentioned Rome 42, because I haven't actually tried to use any of the spaced repetition stuff in it. So I would
Oh,
be
that's not in
interested
Roam
in.
42. That's in Roam Toolkit.
Oh,
That's
it's
in Roam
Roam Toolkit. Yeah. I think I have that installed, but I've kind of not tried to figure it out. It felt like too much work, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, it's, let me see. Yeah, okay. I can bring it up here, so I'm going to share my screen. It's, if you're familiar with Anki, or even the space repetition in Readwise, so if you click on feedback in Readwise, you get the never, soon, later, eventually. Do you know what I refer to?
Yeah.
So it's the same in Anki. So you get 4 options. You see the front of the flashcard. You have to answer for yourself. Okay, what's the answer? Then you click show card, and then you have to score yourself. So it works the same way in Roam Toolkit. So for example, the way it works is, how can you send a block into the future with Roam? Answer, the delta function. All right. So this is the question, and this is the answer. So let's say like this. So what now? I put my cursor in here, and I will first show you the Roam Toolkit. So you have several options. So one of them that's enabled. And these are essentially the options in Anki or Readwise. So you have the 1, the Control-Shift-1, that's for Mac, the Control-Shift-1. That means that you get to see it again very soon. Hard means a little bit later. Good means later, and a little bit later, and then easy, way much later. So I can simply put my cursor in here, hit Control-Shift 2, for example, and it creates this. So it schedules it for the future, so this date. And this is what this does. You don't really need it. You can tweak it manually. But this is essentially just information for the Anki algorithm, because they use the Anki algorithm, and it uses these 2 variables. If I hit it again, you see the interval changes. Let's see. Yeah, again. So you see, I can, the more I push it, that's how it works.
Okay. So does that just show up on the daily note page, just in the link references, like anything else that you just tag the date in? Then there's
Yes.
no other kind of function that shows it especially different.
No, it just shows up in the daily notes. So that's why this is here, the date. So that's essentially how it works. It's not super sophisticated, but it works surprisingly well. And what I especially like is that it does this part for you. So the interval, I think it's the amount of days. Yeah, it's the amount of days, and then the factor is, I think, the difficulty factor.
Yeah, so it's actually quite similar to what Delta gives you. The difference is that you just don't have quite the same level of control as this, because you can only do, plus, and you can use multiplication, but they're all whole numbers only. So you can't get that kind of 2.2 sort of factor, which is what you kind of need for the SRS stuff, I think.
Yeah, and from what I've understood is, so you have the delta function, and you can then send it to another point in the future and let it schedule. But what if I had the answer wrong? Then I manually have to set the amount of days, right? When I want to see it.
At the moment, you've got to manually adjust it every single time.
Yeah, so if I want to learn something, so I mean, the delta function, I would see it as useful probably for tasks, most useful for tasks in my case. And then if I want to learn something or I want to remember something like actual space repetition, I would prefer this because this does all the scheduling for me and it uses an actual algorithm. So
Well, as you've just talked about this actually, given what that actually does, that is exactly what maybe Roam Hacker or David Vargas could do, because basically that's all you need. What you want is those same kind of key presses to say yes, or it was this easy or that easy. And that is what's basically setting the appropriate interval based on the algorithm. So you could actually
in the delta function.
Yeah, because the delta function, all you've got to do is just have it adjust the two, like the next number of days and the next interval. And so you can change it at any time. So that is all that needs to happen. You've just got to do it manually at the moment. So you've got to manually do that algorithm calculation. So in actual fact, with a little bit of JavaScript and firing that algorithm into it, that would be trivial to do with Delta.
That's awesome. Monkey algorithm to the delta function, right?
Yeah.
That would essentially be it.
Yeah, I mean, it literally just need those sort of key presses to just let you adjust it in that way. And if you could add some interface to it, because this is what I'm assuming the Roam team will do themselves, or they're working on it. And because I'm sure that I've seen them mention something about like having kind of proper, a more card-like interface for it, because that is the building blocks are all there. It's just apart from the couple of little menus to do it, for sort of clicking on it, everything else you've just got to edit it, and that's all you have to do is edit it every day, or you edit it each time it comes up, and you can change it to be whatever you want it to be, and then you hit the button, it'll do whatever you've edited it to.
And I think even with and I'm just thinking now, even with Roam Portal, you can say you could search, I think, for delta anything between, I don't know, all time before and today.
Yeah,
you could probably do, and I don't use delta, so
you definitely could. Is Alt Option J? That's it.
Yeah, and then I could probably, well, now it's searching, but I could probably also say, oh, I want to have all the results before today. If that would be possible, then you, even if you miss something, it would be easy to retrieve it.
Let's try my own database.
Very interesting. I like this. This is like an idea that comes to be through dialogue.
Yeah,
Love it. It's great. I'm going to I'm going to pick it up with Chris. If you could do something like that, I'm probably going to tweet about it too. I will give you the credits, Andy, to steer a little bit of a discussion. Let's see if Connor sees it or if someone else from the Roam team. But at least I will pick it up with Chris. Great. Good question. Thank you.
Interesting. It doesn't actually pick much up with Roam Portal. I'm just Delta. I wonder if it's got to be. Interesting.
Do you does it work?
No, not. Oh, here we go. Yes, there we go.
What did you use?
So you need to put Delta in. You know, when you kind of go into the extra, like if you expand it down, it needs to be in the page name mentioned. Section to start getting any results. And then I get all of the times that I've used it. And I guess then I can filter it down. So trying to do.
Yeah, I noticed that I need to first jump into the Delta feature before I can say anything sensible about it.
Yeah, that does.
We are nearing the top of the hour. Well, 7 more minutes. I don't know if there. It was a really good question, Andy. This is great. Love it. Any other questions or suggestions for next time? I was thinking. Oh, share my screen again. For next time, I was thinking to do either a demo or a lecture or just use the same format. I might put the link also in the subscriber email. So instead of not just the member emails, but also the subscriber email to see if we can get some more people in. Although we do have only 100 people limit now. So we have 2,200, 2,300 people, so 2,300 people on the email list. They're all going to sign up.
Yeah.
When we did the Roman journals, we had just under 500 signups, so it's a little bit crazy. Yeah, I still need to think about it, but I like small groups, but it's always nice to have. I mean, the more people you have, the more questions you get, the more insights you get, the more the brain power you get combined. So if there are no more questions, I am going to stop the recording.